Hey folks, it's been a minute. It's the 22nd of February 2026, and this is my first video of the year, and we're going to make it a garden tour. Now, January and February have so far this year been a bit of a gardening disappointment, and I say that only because the weather's kind of stunk. So even tasks that I would have done in prior years, clean up things like that around the property, have kind of gotten stalled because, well, we were sitting under a sheet of ice, and then we were sitting under a sheet of snow. And we had temperatures down in the high single digits, low double digits a lot, and it just really wasn't fun to work in. So it's been more indoors than I wanted it to be so far this year. But the weather's going to start breaking nice soon. We've had a couple of good days here and there. And yeah, I'm ready to start shooting again. So garden tour time. Now before we actually walk into the garden, let me give anybody new here a bit of a nickel tour of what I've got going on. The garden you're about to see is an 8,100 square foot no dig garden. It is beds are compost, pathways are wood chip. I make my own compost in a 4-base system. I've got videos on that. And the wood chips I get delivered in from arborists. I can't get any right now because the ground's too wet from all the snow and rain we've had, and they would get stuck. So I kind of need more wood chips, and I don't have any available. The garden itself, we're starting our 6th season here. I'd say we're starting our 3rd season in earnest where I have actually the whole space available to me, because this was a Bermuda grass field, and for my first 3 years I was trying to smother it out with organic matter, and towards the end of the 3rd season I realized I just couldn't win that through smothering, so I did a lot of hand removal. So the 4th season is when I really had the space available to me, and last year, I think it was the first year, I actually had all the beds filled at least one time during the season. And this year it'll probably be the same thing. So we're starting to get into a bit of a rhythm now. I still don't have a great planting rhythm when it comes to what I want to plant and where. I kind of play it fast and loose. I just propagate a bunch of stuff and then throw it out there wherever I see fit. And I haven't quite dialed in how much I need to grow for myself versus how much I want to grow for donation and things like that. But again, it'll all come in time. So with that background, let's get into it. The fence you see is required because of the deer. It is 10 feet tall. We've got T-posts about every 10 feet with the exception of the gate. I attached a 10-foot piece of 2-inch PVC that I found in the barn to each T-post, usually via zip ties. Ran a string across the top. The bottom section is 4-foot welded wire, and the top is a 7-foot, really lightweight deer netting that I just draped down, overlap, zip tie in. And it's not physically strong enough to keep anything out if it wants to get through, but it's been enough of a deterrent where a deer hasn't gotten through. I did have issues last year with a skunk getting in last spring. They can actually fit through the welded wire, which is only 2 inches by 4 inches. So I actually had to attach chicken wire to the bottom. Then they were getting underneath that, and so I had to attach an apron of chicken wire, and then had to cover it with wood chip. That was a disaster. Kind of took the fun out of last spring for me, but haven't had skunk issues since I actually got the apron set up, so all good on that front. Coming into here, what you're going to see is, if you look at the way it's laid out, we've got beds running east to west, 3 sections. There's 16 in each one. I'd say the beds are probably anywhere between 20 and 25 feet long, 2 to 3 feet wide. I was standardizing it when I first set it up, and then I realized that, we had pathway creep, and then when I remulched it would creep, so they just kind of turned out to be what they are. Got a handful of Aronia shrubs there that I've propagated. We're going to see if they break dormancy this year, and then I'll figure out what I want to do with them. But yeah, let's talk about what's planted right now and what we've got going on in the near future. These first 5 beds are all garlic. I have a video of how not to plant garlic last October. I say how not to plant garlic because I had to do some unconventional things because I was suffering a bit of a garlic mite, M-I-T-E issue, and I was trying to get the bulbs as clean as possible before they went into the ground. These split logs that I've got all around these first few beds, I have them in a couple other places too. That's new in the last couple of weeks. I split the wood for our wood stove, which we do not use in the house, but we have in case of emergency. We were expecting to lose power in the ice storm about a month ago, and we didn't. So I have all the split wood, and I'm really not a fan of burning much, so I just decided to use it as an organic matter addition to the garden. And yeah, I figure it can decompose, and if it causes a problem later that I'm not foreseeing now, well, then I'll have to, take them out and move them into the woods so they can decompose there. And these are probably going to come out in mid-June or early June. That's usually when I kind of have a forecast for myself. And I think following these is going to be a a big old heap of sweet potatoes. The next beds, these were probably daikons and beets maybe coming out of last fall, winter, early winter. And I'm not going to recompost these because I don't have the material for them. I think I was planning on having potatoes in these first 6 beds here. But my seed potato supplier, the place I buy my seed potatoes from, I called them to see when the delivery is going to be, and they said that 3 of their suppliers lost their crop in January due to the cold. I don't know how that process works, but they couldn't give me any information on when they're going to get some in. So I'm going to call back the first week of March and see what they got going on, because they actually had a really, an okay selection, but a really great price per pound. So I really want to go back to them. Plus, it's not a big box store, and I like supporting local. Nothing in any of these beds yet, and no, I do not know what's going to go into them yet, but this bed right here has been my happiest surprise that I had this winter, and let me tell you why. So I do try to eat a pretty overall nutritious diet, and one of my staples that I try to get in every day if I can, especially during the seasons with which it grows, is a cruciferous green. So think kale, mustard, collards, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, etc. Most of them have a reputation for being cold hardy, but most of them are not going to stand up well to the low teens, especially sustained like that. Mustard dies in low 20s. The kale doesn't do well in the low teens. The broccoli didn't do well in the low teens either. But what did do well are my Brussels sprouts. Now, mind you, they didn't sprout up well. I'm going to show you the plant in a minute, but I learned a little later than I would like to learn, but I did learn this, so it'll help me for next year, and it's helping me now. I'm actually eating the leaves off the plant. This plant is tough as nails. It handles 7 degrees just fine. So I'm going to carry 3 beds of Brussels sprouts into the late fall, winter this coming year, or the year we're in now for the coming season. And that's going to be my cruciferous green for winter 26, winter 27, because they actually grew throughout the cold season, like literally put on growth to where I was harvesting off of them before the ice storm. The ice storm came, the snow came, and then I harvested afterwards too. So it's been a very, very special plant for me in ways I wasn't expecting. But let's get down there and take a look real quick so you can kind of see what I'm looking at from a sprouts versus leaves standpoint. So as we get close to this plant, you can see I've got sprouts down here that have kind of opened up into new little shoots. I can actually pop that off and eat just fine. But what I'll do in a couple of days, because I just did a harvest a few days ago, I'll come through and these lower leaves, I'll just snip that back around, kind of like we do if you have a loose leaf lettuce or pretty much any other brassica or spinach or, Swiss chard. I'll bring them in, I'll dice them up into about, 1 square inch pieces, half a pound a day. I can probably get, if I hit these really hard in a couple of days, I could probably get 3 pounds of greens out of this. So yeah, this has been a bed that has had more value for me than I thought it was going to when I realized the sprouts weren't going to take off. And yeah, I'll carry it forward as a leafy green in the winter. No clue what's going to go into this bed at this time. This is my asparagus bed, one of 2, but it's my much more successful one. Now my asparagus I started from seed in January of 2024, transplanted probably April of 24. It grew well enough in 2024. In 2025, it grew really well. You can see this was a very strong crown. They're about to wake up in the next few weeks here. I think I might leave them alone this year and let them really continue to photosynthesize and build the root system. I may pick off a spear here or there, but as of last year, my first harvest year that I was really going to, get into it was 2027. And I'll probably still hold to that. I'm usually pretty good about being patient with things like that in playing the long game. I think I'll be able to resist the urge. And then we've got my first of 2 blackberry sections. Now this was originally 5 plants. It's since expanded to probably 16. Probably more than that. This I put the logs around here as well. There's probably 11 in this row, and then I've got along the fence line more that just kind of happened. What did I do? I probably found a plant that was just sitting out in the middle of the pathway. I yanked it out of the ground. I put it in front of the T-post against the fence and said, ooh, let's see if that works. And lo and behold, it did. And then I started doing it. And then they actually, since the roots of these are running out, a couple have actually filled in spots on their own. So I'm really happy with it. I'll be getting a ton of blackberries. And this is only one of 2 sections. I did a pretty good job, I think, of pruning these for the most part. I tried to keep no more than 4 canes, and then I tried to keep the side shoots relatively short to about 2.5 feet, maybe less if I can, only because I've noticed in the past, if I let something get really long and leggy, if there was a fruit set at the end, it seemed like it couldn't mature, and I'm wondering if it was just too far away from the root system. I mean, it was basically 10 feet off the root system if it was on like a 6-foot main cane and a 4-foot side shoot. It just probably couldn't get the energy to finish out. So I thought I would tighten them up a lot more this year and see if I can get, albeit fewer, but maybe better berries. We'll see. I love growing blackberries, and I've got probably 30 plus plants in the garden, so I don't think that if I compromise a little bit of production on these, that it's going to impact my overall yield to a great degree. And then swinging around to this section, the whole motif of this outside area, actually starting from the blackberries, is berries are running the perimeter on the western side of the garden to the northern edge. Not strawberries, they're in beds. We'll get to them in a minute. So continuing the berries, we've got 5 blueberry bushes here, 4 of which are doing pretty well. This one, Ochlockonee, did really well. Pink Lemonade, less so. I added some more compost to these guys to get them going a bit more. I haven't done any pruning on them yet. I haven't quite figured out what kind of strategy I want to take with that. We'll see. But they did produce berries last year, and I wasn't unhappy with the production. This is my one little raised bed. That was actually a tabletop that I decided to turn into a raised bed when I didn't need the table anymore. So I took the top off of the table and I said, hey, it's kind of a bed frame. Where can I put it? So I just plopped it there. And instead of using actual compost in there, I did a bit of a lasagna dressing of it. I say lasagna, layer of grass clippings, layer of leaves, layer of grass, etc., and then topped it off with compost. So it would sort of get an organic matter push from the bottom, from the top, to kind of decompose everything. And I actually grew some really great lettuce in there last fall. This bed I've strung out, but I ran out of compost partway down. And this is actually a good example of what I mean when I say brassicas that hold well versus those that don't. This is red Russian kale, one of my favorite brassicas, if not, I don't want to say it's my favorite because I kind of change with the weather when it comes to what I really like eating. But it is my favorite kale. I've grown lacinato as well, but I think I lean much more toward this. I get much better production on it. It seems to be more pest resistant, at least in my area. But this is how well it handled the cold. Not very well. This plant may come back. I think the stem or the stalk is still in okay shape, but a lot of them have since decomposed off. I'll probably see if I give it a really hard prune. If it wakes up for the spring, it doesn't bolt right away. I've got more in production right now undercover for transplanting when they grow out. So I may pull most of the ones that look really, really bad. This area here, I ran out of compost and wood chips for, so I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to clean this up. I've noticed the soil in this particular area seems a bit lagging behind some of the other areas in the garden, despite the fact that I treated it the same way. So the previous owner in this particular section of the pasture may have had something going on here. He may have actually had a burn pile. Maybe it compromised something. I don't know. Maybe I'm planting in melted plastic for all I know. I didn't see anything when I actually dig in and put a plug in the ground. I didn't see anything too funky, but I didn't like the color of the soil. So there's something weird in this area, but I can still grow well enough in here. More kale and brassicas that didn't make it through. Carrots that I sowed in the fall, late summer, fall, and they didn't do a great job in this bed, but they did well enough. And just to show you what I still have going on here, take a look at that carrot right there. That's a big crown. That's probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches in diameter. I haven't harvested it yet. I have a handful of them like that in there. They handle the cold beautifully. They don't freeze at all. The foliage doesn't do a great job, but it will bounce back. But I do need to make sure I harvest them before they get too stimulated in growth, so they don't bolt. Because if they do bolt and they go to seed and flower, they're going to get too woody to eat. And I'm running out of carrots in the house, so I do want to get those out of the ground before that happens. These are freshly composted beds, this whole section right here, and we actually have done some direct sowing. These first 4 are nothing. Sugar snap peas, Sugar Ann variety, beets, Chioggia, It's the pink and white striped one. I've also heard them called like candy cane or candy stripe beets. Carrots, Danvers 126, same variety as that one over there. And then onions, we've got, I have to remember the name of that one. I don't remember what that one is, but that's Red Weatherfield. Can't remember what that is. I actually sowed them undercover as well. I'm hoping that the germination direct sowing is good enough. I've done a little bit of direct sowing in onions without too much success. I've done undercover sowings as well. My onion game has not been strong. I've kind of phoned it in on that a little bit, but I'm trying a little bit different this year, and hopefully we do better. Last year, the onions I put in the garden in late fall, they all bolted in the spring. I was really ticked off. These are all of my blackberries that I have overwintered in these pots, just popping them out of the ground, putting them in pots. I had some of them in, the ones in the 3 gallons were in 1 gallons last year. I did try to sell them on Facebook Marketplace to no great success. We'll see if they break dormancy or if the cold is too much for them. What I'm going to do, however, this is technically a flora cane. It is a 2nd year cane now that we're coming into its 2nd year, and it should flower and fruit, but I am not going to let it. While this one's trying to push out flowers, new canes should come out of the crown if the crown is still alive. I'm going to prune that one back, and I'm going to let all the energy go to the new ones. I don't want these things to waste energy flowering and fruiting. I want a stronger root system to take off in those pots. 3 empty beds. And now we're coming to my strawberry section. I didn't have compost or wood chips for this area here. I didn't have enough decomposed compost to put in before the strawberries went in. And so I put them in the ground. You can see I've got some weed issues that I've got to clear out here. I'm not too worried about it. The soil here is mature enough to where I don't need to amend it this year for the strawberries. They're still going to push out plenty of fruit. I'd be surprised if they didn't. They seem to be waking up pretty well right now. I can't believe we're only 60 days away from harvesting strawberries again. But I'll leave 2 of these beds after they're done. I'll rip the other 6 out and compost them. And the 2 that I leave, we're going to let run like crazy. And those will be our plants for the following, when we transplant and move the beds in October. Coming on down, you can see I did a pretty decent job of getting these areas cleared up and having some fresh wood chip and compost. And I do not yet know what's going to go into them. I was at one point, I'm still thinking about it, of having maybe a couple of muscadine beds here. This is an asparagus bed. I didn't have any more compost for this one, but I did top dress some of it with some deciduous leaf fall. Problem is we get such high winds here, it blows off. So I may take some semi-decomposed compost and top dress it with this, because that's going to be damp enough to hold this down, and actually being top dressed on that would help break that leaf down because it would help it stay damp. This section here was originally raspberries as of the early 2022. They never produced a flower or fruit. The foliage grew great until early last year. Early last year, I was telling myself, if they don't actually fruit or flower, they're gone. But then they actually didn't throw out new canes, so they were dead, and I took them out. Tomatoes went in place of them along with some basil, and I think I'm going to try to score some more raspberries this year because I really do want to eat raspberries, and this is the section that existed for them. So yeah, we got to get that going. There's a fig tree. I transplanted this one on March 26, 2025. Why do I know that date? Because it was a garden tour date. I did it the morning I did a garden tour, and I think the plant was maybe an inch tall. This is all the growth that I had out of it last year, so it probably got 3.5, 4 feet tall. 2 really phenomenal, like, main shoots. I pruned it relatively hard this past week, and I don't think I want to do any more pruning on it. If I did, I would probably take something like this guy, and I'd cut this top piece off to stimulate this piece to grow more outward, because it looks like he's swinging into the plant. But I'm not really worried about it producing well this year. The more leaf I leave on it, I think the more photosynthesis I should get, which means the better root system I should get, which means for future growth, I can do a really hard prune this coming winter and get it more in the shape that I want it to be. 3 Aronia shrubs. I haven't done anything with them other than finally harvest off of them this past year. I installed them in, I think it was February of 2023. And 2024, I really didn't do much harvesting off them. I kind of ignored this corner in 2024. It's still a lot of Bermuda grass that was colonizing the area. I just didn't make it up to this corner much. But last year I made more of a concerted effort to get some of the harvest because they actually did produce pretty well. And I was happy with that. And this year I'm going to do even better. I was a little late getting out to these last last June, July, whenever they were ready to start harvesting. This year, I'm a little more prepared for it. My elderberries, I bought them from the same vendor from which I got these Aronia, and I was going to take them back to the ground this year and let them regrow out because they shoot so much growth every year, but I kind of ran out of time. As you can see, we've already got breaking bud here. So I'm not going to take that back to the ground this year. I think I'm going to let it go. I wanted to actually do a ton of propagation off of it, but because I did a lot of propagating of figs, but I still have a ton of fig cuttings, and I just don't have the right greenhouse. I don't have the number of pots. I don't have enough compost. So I really don't have the infrastructure to handle all those cuttings. So I may just be more choosy in my cuttings for these when I take these plants down next year. Got a big open space right here. I thought I was going to put like a gomi berry or something. I haven't quite figured out what I want to go here yet. I actually ripped a blackberry crown out of the ground over behind me, and I put it in here. I don't know if it's dead or alive. It was kind of a playful thing I did last year towards the end of the growing season to see if it was even alive. I don't remember why I did that now, but I thought I made a video on that, so I'll have to look back at some of the stuff I pushed out and see what it is, how it wound up there. Anywho, this is my second blackberry section. Now this originally came to be, these are all transplants from suckers out of those root systems. I would pot them up into maybe 4-inch squares, and this actually all got installed in 2024 fall. Yeah, it was fall of 2024, and in 2025, when those original canes broke dormancy, I chopped them back to the ground so they didn't fruit or flower last year, and this is all that growth that I got from it. So I think I'm a fan of actually not letting first-year flora canes. I know it sounds that doesn't sound like the right way to say it, because a first-year growth on a blackberry plant is a primocane. The second year, the primocane becomes a floricane, and that's what fruits. Simultaneously, new canes are coming out of the ground as primocanes, which are going to be the following year's fruiting canes. So I didn't let the fruiting canes actually fruit last year. I chopped them back and I let the primocanes run. So this is the first time it's actually going to fruit. And man, they really just took off. So, and this is why I was getting, I wasn't too worried about when I was saying earlier with the blackberries about the production. If those don't produce great because I took too much growth off of them, I've got plenty of berries in reserve. So yeah, that's the garden, all 8,100 square feet of it. So what am I planning on this spring as far as production goes? What kind of crops? Well, you heard that I've already got the carrots in. I've got the sugar snap peas. I've got the beets. I'm also going to be doing turnips. I've got lettuce. I've got mixed brassicas like mustards and kales. Broccoli. I'll have broccoli in there too. What else am I going to have? Oh, I don't know. Turnips. I think I said that already. I don't think there's anything else I'm looking forward in the spring necessarily, unless I am. Then comes in the late spring, early summer, we're going to be looking at the usual suspects. A whole lot of sweet potatoes, tomatoes and peppers, and I will not do probably squash or zucchini if I do any at all, because the squash bug in this area is really horrific. Yeah, I usually just I've given up on that crop for the most part. I just haven't enjoyed trying to grow it. Cucumbers, yes. Cantaloupe. I really enjoyed cantaloupe last year, which kind of surprised me because I was never a fan of that fruit growing up. But I didn't get many of them last year, but the ones I got, I really enjoyed. So yeah, that's what we've got right now. And as it unfolds in the coming weeks and months, I will take you along for the ride. We'll start picking these tours back up. We'll put them up the last week, give or take, of each month. That's what I did last year. Felt pretty good to put them out in that time frame, that timeline. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to post below. If you have any comments or any suggestions, if you've ever put down split logs as a framing of a bed, and whatever your experience has been, let me know, because I want to know what kind of trouble I'm running in for. I usually don't know something's a bad idea until I find out later it's a bad idea and why it is. But right now I can't really see what the problem's going to be. There probably will be something at least. Hope you enjoy it today. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.